Welcome to Financial Focus, brought to you by Gulf Coast Financial Services founder and CEO, John Kuykendall. John and his team of financial, legal, and tax professionals have provided North Florida savers and investors sound, comprehensive financial guidance for over 25 years, helping you to achieve important life and planning goals. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net.
And welcome back to the program Financial Focus, your resource, ladies and gentlemen, for that common sense approach to navigating this crazy, complex financial world. Named Best of the Best in Financial Services by the Lake City Reporter, 6 years and running, the team from Gulf Coast Financial Services, founder, CEO John Kuykendall, always here with us, providing that dose of common sense. And in a world where that's less and less common, as we were discussing before the show, John, but specifically from a financial perspective, the world is going crazy.
Well, it has, Peter. And, you know, I always thought that when you got to retirement, it was easy. Things were simple. You just kind of rocked along. You paid a few taxes, but not a lot of taxes. Everybody told us taxes would be cheaper in retirement. Nobody told us that Medicare would be indexed for income. And so things were supposed to be just kind of laissez-faire. But what I found out is that being retired is almost more difficult than working.
Yeah, it makes the working for the money part seem easy.
Yeah. I mean, it was easy to work for it because I got paid, I put it up, and then it grew. And when I retire, I'm paying myself. But at the same time, everything that I do has a consequence. How I take my money out, how I get my money, what I buy with, how I buy things, all those things have a tremendous amount of impact on my personal taxes.
Well, John, on today's program, we're going to be talking about a handful of recent Kiplinger articles. The first one, kind of a news flash and a wake-up call if you haven't really been paying attention, but the headline is "The Cost of Retirement Has Tripled." And they talk about that over the last 30 years, the costs in retirement have gone up significantly. However, they do say there's help, but don't worry, a new way of planning can help. Then they reference something that you have talked an awful lot about, income allocation. They say having the income allocation approach can lower the cost of retiring. You've always talked about it being a specific system to structure the assets to do more with less and generate more income, but they're actually saying that it can also help lower costs and expenses. So benefits on both sides.
Well, that's right, Peter. And you know what I've always said is that we need to take our money and leverage it the best way we can. Being a former banker, I like to leverage money. And so if I can have my money doing a lot of different things, but at the same time providing me with income, then I know that I've maximized the money that I have. And so we have to do that. I can honestly tell you that I really believe that it has tripled the cost because things cost more. You know, medicine's higher, cars are higher. Somebody just told me they paid $90,000 for a Lincoln SUV, and it wasn't the top of the line.
Wow.
I mean, who would have thought that? Huh? I mean, back when, if we ever paid that for a Mercedes, we would have thought we were king of the road.
Yeah, that was the Ferrari price back when I was coming up. You know, I had the poster on my wall of the Testarossa, and that was somewhere in the $120,000 range back then.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, I remember Dad bought a '55 Chevrolet, and we paid $2,500 due for it. And but now the windows, you had to crank the windows, and it didn't have air conditioning, but it did get us from A to B. And got fairly decent gas mileage. But gas was 18 cents a gallon back then, so it didn't really matter. But, you know, it does, everything costs more, and we're having to pay more, so therefore we need more money. And then on top of that, taxes are more, so we have to worry about how we're going to pay for those taxes. And as we'll see later in the show, everything we do has a consequence on not one thing, but maybe two or three.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you just aren't aware of all the things that you can trigger when you just say, give me $50,000 out of my IRA, I'm going to go buy a car.
Yeah. And we talked a lot last week about why we need to carefully consider taxes and how we need to have a tax forward perspective and planning approach. But another Kiplinger article reinforced that message. It's been released since that time. But are your taxes set to explode in retirement? And basically, this article insinuates that the way that we have been taught might not be the actual best way to save for retirement. They say that we've been strapping ourselves to a ticking tax time bomb that's getting ready to explode.
Well, as we've talked on the show before, taxes have been and are now at the lowest point that we've ever been. And that we've had that luxury now for 20 or 30 years now where taxes have been fairly low compared to what we paid in the 40s and 50s. And so we have been deferring all this money ever since 1983 or 4 when we did away with the defined pension plans and came out with the 401ks, the first deferral. So we've been deferring this money all along saying, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket, but we can't be in a lower tax bracket with all of this debt that the country owes. I mean, we just passed another stimulus bill for almost $2 trillion, added to the 20 plus trillion we already had, or the 100 plus trillion that we owe already with all of the things that we have to pay with Social Security and all of those other entitlements, which are programs. So I don't want to say it's an entitlement because I did put my money into Social Security. So,
well, therefore you are entitled to it. That's yours. I don't think there's. I get the connotation of that word. It sort of insinuates something different, but you are entitled to that benefit because you put your money into it.
That's right. And so, we've got those taxes now, and we know what we have. We might have been better off to have paid the taxes back then and then have them grow tax free. But, they didn't come out with a Roth until later in our life. Probably about 2000 plus 2000, 2002 when we came out with a Roth. And so up until then, there was no way to save other than put money in life insurance, which didn't have the benefits it's got now. Policies weren't as good. The actuarial tables weren't as cheap as they were because people are living longer. I just read an article that the centenarians are actually increasing dramatically the number of people that are over 100 in the United States because of the way our lifestyle and improvements in medicine.
Fastest growing demographic segment of the population. I remember once upon a time, there was a TV show. It was one of these New York, morning shows where if you turned 100, you got to call in and they would help you celebrate your birthday. And eventually they just said, we can't do this anymore. There's just too many of you. Like it would take up the whole show.
Yeah. Well, Japan used to give a gold plaque to everybody that reached 100. And it got so that it was so erroneous on the budget, they had to cut it out because they couldn't afford to give out the plaques anymore. So
drained their gold reserves.
Yeah. So, we are living longer. And so therefore that's another problem because longevity, which is the multiplier, as Tom Hegnia says, of our retirement problem, that is making us have to have our money for a lot longer. We can't plan on a 20-year retirement anymore. We have to plan on a 30, 35-year retirement.
Right. Well, it's 2021 here, not 1941. We are living longer. We have more of the onus and the responsibility of planning for retirement on our own shoulders. So we need to plan specifically on a tax perspective, as we talked about last week, and we're going to dive into a little bit more this week, for many, many years ahead. We need to include and incorporate the thought of growth on our money. What does that mean for us? And the possibility for the tax environment, the rates and brackets into the future potentially changing on us. They've come down since the 401k was incepted, but we can't base our decision on what has happened in the past. We have to look forward. So, John, you talked about that planning approach, the income allocation, including the tax planning, but we thought we would today take a little bit deeper dive into some Roth opportunities. And what we need to know is the advantages of the Roth and how we can, in fact, take advantage.
Well, the first advantage of the Roth is that it grows tax-free. So I put my money in. It's after tax money, but all of my gain is tax free. So I don't have to pay any taxes on that. The second big benefit is that if I pass that on, then they can take it out. They don't ever have to take it out. They can continue if they don't need the money. My beneficiary can leave it to their beneficiary. So the money can grow forever and never taxes are ever paid on it. That's the second thing. The third thing is that in retirement, I can use that money and not have to pay taxes. So when I pull money out of there, I'll be able to keep myself in a lower tax bracket because I'm not taxable on that money. It's a great program, a great thing that Roth designed for us, Senator Roth. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't take advantage of it. And if you've got a Roth 401k at work, you need to be deferring your money into that. Pay some taxes now, put your money in a Roth 401k and let it grow tax-free.
Now, your company may be nice enough to match your contributions, but they're probably not nice enough to pay your taxes for you.
Right.
They don't care which side you choose to put your dollars on, but they're getting the deduction for matching those contributions. They're putting theirs on the pre-tax side. So that ends up being something where you've got kind of two pools of money into the future, right within the same account with the 401ks. But it is an option that more and more is available. And yet I don't think enough people are really utilizing that.
I don't either, Peter. I don't think it's something that the companies push for one thing. There's no reason they wouldn't, because it gives them the same benefit whether I go into a Roth or whether I go into the regular 401k. I think, education wise, we've been educated that I defer taxes now. I'm going to be in a cheaper tax bracket when I retire, and we're not going to be. I mean, there's no way that we can continue to keep these low taxes. And even if we were in a lower tax bracket, what you're going to find is other things are going to be taxed instead. So you're going to be in a higher tax bracket. I pull money out of my 401k or out of my IRA to live on. I could, up to 85% of my Social Security is subject to taxes. While it's not taxed at the time, depending on how much income I make, up to 85% of my Social Security is subject to my income tax. So you can have that. Also, Medicare Part B and Medicare Part D are both indexed for income. So if I make too much, I end up paying not the minimum, but a higher one. And we've had that happen with a lot of clients. I had one client paying almost $500 a month for Medicare Part B because he got a bonus right before he retired. So it all needs to be planned out, Peter. There's no way that we're going to be in a lower tax bracket. But if you think you can go into it without planning, then you will be in a higher tax bracket for sure.
Well, John, there seems to be a deep divide and a universe between what we think and what we've been taught and what we know, and then what is actual reality and fact. So we've been taught that taxes will be lower in retirement. Nowhere is that written in stone nor in the tax code. We've been taught that we can survive off of significantly less than we earn when we retire. Well, incomes go up substantially over the course of a career typically. So that's probably not the case for most people if they're looking back over their career saying what I was earning in 1985 and 1995, I can survive off of only 70 or 80% of that today. And so we really need to rethink these paradigms, don't we?
Well, we do, Peter, and we've done a poor job of educating people. For some reason, people procrastinate on this planning. I mean, we are so far advanced now. We've been doing this for 29 years now. Gulf Coast is actually 29 years old this month. And I have seen the financial planning arena change 180 degrees. We have figured out how to give you a nice report without making it so complicated you can't understand it. Put it in simple English, put it on the computer, give you a flash drive, and be able to tweak it anytime you want to. But people don't take advantage of it. We've been taught that, don't worry about it, just defer your money. And if you build your retirement somewhere down the road, Social Security is going to take care of you. You know, Social Security was only meant to be 40% of your retirement. In some cases, it's not even that anymore, because, you know, when you're getting 25,000 and it's costing you 80, 90 to live on without having to downsize, you know, it's not making that big a deal. The other thing is that most seniors, a lot of people only have what, $60,000 saved up in retirement, because we've lived the dream. You know, boomers lived the dream. We were the carefree spirits of the 60s. And unfortunately, that carried right along through most of our retirement life, because as we changed jobs, we took the money out and spent it on toys and things, and never thought, you know, retirement's won't be a problem. Well, it is. But those of us who have done a good job of savings and a good job of setting up and deferred accounts, we're going to be penalized, because as we hit these progressive tax brackets, we're going to be having to pay more in taxes than we ever thought we would.
An important point to note, and fact, that the larger the account balance, the more costly a mistake in ignoring this issue, because of that progressive tax system that we have. And even if tax rates and brackets stay the same, if your goal, John, is growth on your money, then Uncle Sam is right there lockstep with you. That's their goal too, because they'd rather tax that larger amount. And so we really need to consider these things as we are planning. John, the flash drive, the planning documents, the process that you spoke about, that is the financial focus plan and process. And it is not 1,000 pages of financial jargon that goes over people's heads. This is simple, easy to understand language, illustrations, tools that we can actually use, a snapshot of where we are, a description, definition of goals, and then a timeline of executable action items. Things like identifying where we've got the ability to better control that tax liability in the future, specific strategies on how to do that. And you guys make that available, no cost, no obligation there at Gulf Coast Financial Services.
Well, that's right, Peter. And one of the reasons we formed Gulf Coast Tax Service was so that we could add that taxes on the other side, so that we could really have the software, have the expertise to do what we needed to do to help everybody with their taxes. But I got to tell you that being retired, or being retirement age, not retired myself, I understand the pitfalls, and I understand what I've done wrong. And I understand what we need to do, because when I was coming along, nobody was telling me, don't file Social Security now, don't do this. You know, at 60, full retirement age, you can make as much money as you want. The problem is you can still work, you can make money, you can pull money out of your accounts, but it's going to cost you in 3 or 4 other areas that you're going to pay taxes and higher expenses for a year.
Yeah, you make the initial withdrawal. That's taxable. And then it causes your Social Security to also become taxable, or taxed at a higher level. You pass certain thresholds. And then the Medicare premiums are income-related means tested. And with all that tax being deducted, now we've got to pull even more out of the original tax-deferred account. It's kind of a vicious cycle when we've been taught to set up our retirement that way.
Well, yeah, don't forget that if I've got a brokerage account, I'm paying taxes every year on that money. I could take myself into a higher capital gains bracket and have to pay more capital gains because I've got more income coming in. It all is a rippling effect that we need to have control of.
George Bush fumbled through a pretty famous saying, but it seems apropos here. Fool me once, shame on you. George Bush said, fool me twice. Well, I can't be fooled again. But it seems like a lot of people are paying taxes once. Well, that's the way the system is set up. But then they're paying taxes over and over and over again on the same dollars. And really shame on us for doing so and not educating ourselves on better ways to do this, John.
Well, that's right, Peter. And, you know, the thing is that like I said, it's a rippling effect. If I do this, it may cause this, it may cause that. You have to know that ahead of time. And there's no reason with the stuff we have available, the software, that we can't help anyone with that.
Well, I do want to mention before we get any further into a couple of details here that financial focus plan, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to get your hands on that, if you'd like to take a look at what that can show you, no cost, no obligation, never any benefit to waiting and procrastinating, no downside to placing the call and starting that process. But you can call 386-755 9018-386-755, 9018. Click the link around the video. We always encourage you to like, subscribe, and share the video. Hit the little bell so that you're notified when new editions of Financial Focus are made available. So go ahead and do that now, but pick up the phone and give a call, 386-755-9018 for that Financial Focus plan, or you can go online, gulfcoastfinancial.net, gulfcoastfinancial.net, and request it there. John, one thing that we need to understand is that there's a wide variety of financial tools out there, and almost each one of them has a different tax consequence or implication. So withdrawals from traditional IRAs and 401ks versus Roth, that's going to be taxed differently and affect us differently in retirement.
Well, that's right, Peter. And, like I said, the Roth is tax-free. We can take the money out. If I take the money out of my traditional IRA, I've got to pay taxes on it. In some cases, there are maybe a chance I can do a Roth conversion and not have to pay a lot of additional taxes. But also, we've had some clients who have wanted to do a conversion, and we've explained to them how much it's going to cost them so that they can go ahead and do it. So we're seeing that a lot. Annuities are taxed differently than anything else because it's a return of premium, plus it's my gains, so I get a tax advantage on that. Pensions are dollar for dollar. I get my pension every year or month. Then I'm going to pay taxes on that whole thing. The whole thing's taxable. Social Security, as we talked about, is subject to taxes based upon how much income you have. So there's a 50% level, and then on top of that, it can go up to 85%. But, anything, I want to make one point clear, anything is subject to change. As we've seen, recently with all the stuff that's going on, everything is subject to change. And so they can make a tweak of their PIN and change the tax brackets, change what's taxable and what's not, except for what we have already deferred in the Roths. But they can certainly make it a higher tax bracket. They can tax us differently. So we need to be ready for that. There's nothing in granted here,
So as plans are made, kind of, or as we are discussing on the program, kind of asterisks, as tax laws stand today is always important qualifier. But then, John, we do make plans and projections out into the future, and in some cases make certain assumptions that, hey, on one side, if things don't work out as we assume, we could have more money than we thought and be in a better situation. That would be like with the Roth, making those conversions. But the way that most people are doing it, they're assuming that taxes will go lower into the future. Well, if that does not work out the way that we think, then we end up paying more in taxes and having less money than we thought. So kind of just ask yourself, which side of that would you rather be on, right?
Well, I think I'd rather plan conservatively, thinking they're going to go up and have a handle on it, than to think they're going to stay the same when I know, and you know too, that somehow we're going to have to fund this debt. And right now we're very fortunate because they've kept interest rates very low so that they don't have to pay a lot of interest on the debt that's outstanding.
Yeah.
But if rates go up, then the amount of interest we're paying on our debt goes up. Therefore, we need a lot more taxes. So taxes don't seem to ever go down, Peter. They always seem to go up.
Well, if you would like any of the articles that we cited, look in the description below the video. If you would like that financial focus plan for your particular situation, pick up the phone now, give a call, or click, again, the link below the video. Get in touch with the team at Gulf Coast Financial Services. They're happy to provide you with that complimentary service of having a plan to provide for your future confidence, to help you identify strategies to be more efficient with your money. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, the number to call. John, I think this will continue to be a very hot button and important topic to discuss and to consider and to plan proactively for.
Well, that's right, Peter. And don't forget, one thing I need to say before we leave, if you're full retirement age and you're going to retire and you're thinking about drawing Social Security, there are penalties if you make too much money in the year that you're full retirement age, that you'll have to give back some of the money to Social Security. So that's just another reason you need to check with us before you make a decision.
All of these things that we receive so little education about during our working career, because it's going to be one day way off in the future, and then we get there and there's not a great resource for that information and education. Well, now you have it, ladies and gentlemen. No excuse there, because Gulf Coast Financial Services, they are that resource for that information and education, here to provide it for you so you can make sound, well-informed decisions and get that financial focus plan. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. John, we always appreciate your insight and guidance. Thank you for being here as the resource on the program and for so many savers and investors in North Central Florida.
Thank you, Peter. It was great to be here.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.